Through the years, I have come in contact with some amazing, amazing women who have in the past designed the life that they want to live, the life that they're living now. Like usually I meet them on that path. They're still taking steps. They're still every day recommitting to defining what that is and shifting with the tides and shifting with whatever the world brings at the time. And as they maneuver through it, they just keep blooming and just turning into even more beautiful women as we get to know each other over the years. I like to take those conversations I have with those women, the people that become friends of mine, and share them with you here on the channel. Hopefully, so you can see that as you step out of where you are, the universe will start to bless you with more motivation, more inspiration to keep doing what you're doing. Enjoy my conversation with Tina, and at the end, feel free to drop comments in the comments section to let me know how you feel about the video, or even if you have questions for Tina, you can reach out to her on social media, or I always take any of the comments that you guys share with me and I share them with my guests. Hope you enjoy.
So it's interesting, Jenée, when I think about my journey of healing and my journey of where I am today. And I can honestly say that it all started when I was suffering or working my way through clinical depression. Um, it was interesting because I had gone to work, and one day I was just not feeling 100% myself. And I was leaving for the day, and my boss and I, our paths crossed, and she said to me, "Tina, are you okay?"
Mm-hmm.
And in that instance, I said, the quick, of course, yes, I'm
Of
fine,
course,
because
we're
that's what we
always
do.
okay. We're always okay. Yes.
And, and, and it's also a way of avoiding the extra conversation that would take place if you said you weren't okay. However, in an instant that I said, yes, I'm okay, I paused, I took a deep breath, and I said, no, I'm
Mm.
not okay. And it's taking every ounce of strength for me not to crawl underneath my desk in the fetal position and just cry. I'm literally just going through the motions, and I don't understand exactly what it is because I had never experienced depression before. So I didn't
Right.
know what it looked like, I didn't know what it was supposed to feel like. And so my boss at the time, she was a doctor, and she said, "So what do we need to do?"
Mm.
And I said, "I feel like I just need to step away for a little while.
Right.
I can't work. I can't be your assistant. Right now, I don't want to be a mom, and I don't want to be a daughter. I just need to be
Yes.
Tina."
Yes.
And she said, "Okay." And I made the conscious decision to go away for a week. And what was great was I had some phenomenal, my tribe of women around me who were able to support me
Mm.
by making sure that my son was okay. So I
Yes.
could just go away and focus on me. And going to Anguilla was this amazing place that wasn't overpopulated by tourists.
Yes.
And I knew I could go there, feel safe, feel safe, and at the same time be left alone. Because I
Be
didn't
left
want to
alone.
talk. I didn't want to be nobody's friend.
No.
I needed to figure out what was going on with me.
Yes. Yeah. But I feel like, but I know you, and you have traveled prior to that. Like before that, when you would travel, was it a different type of travel where you had not hit that point where, or gotten to that point where you were like, I need to focus on me? Is that like, was that the turning point? Like before that, you had traveled.
I've gone so many places before that, and I'd been to Anguilla a few more times prior to that. However, this was different. This wasn't, I'm going to hang out, I'm going to meet
Mhm.
people. It was literally going to, I like to say, going to do some soul care
Yes.
because I
I
needed
like
to
that.
go into the soul to
Yes.
understand what I was experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
And it just so amazing because I was encountering amazing people who did not really know what I was going through or what I was working through,
Right.
but was having conversations with me that were so relative to what I was experiencing.
Wow.
And and that was really when I started to appreciate Anguilla
Mhm.
because I had been there years prior. One of my besties had taken me there,
Right.
and I'm like, this place is boring. I can't hang here. Ain't nothing to do here.
There's nothing to
And
do, right?
there's nothing to do but go to the beach. And like, how many beaches can you really go to? But as you get older and have different experiences, and you learn so much more, it was like, I just need peace.
Exactly.
I need peace.
Yes.
And Willa gave me that. And it was the beginning of my healing journey. And, so many spiritual moments had transpired while I was there. And, I'm on the beach and I meet this woman who comes by and she thought I was a local. And I was like,
Okay.
no, I'm not a local. And she was like, that's why I didn't bother you. And her name is Beverly. I remember Beverly. I see Beverly every time I go back over now.
Right.
And I'm like, it's just amazing. She was like, there goes Miss Tina. And we sat there and talked, and she said, I come on this beach like every few days. I never know if I'm going to sell anything, but everything happens at just the right time.
Yes.
So I held
Yes.
on to that. Everything
Yes.
happens at just the right time.
Mhm.
And so I'm going to the beach, and I decide to go in the water now. I'm only going in the water neck deep because I ain't getting the hair wet. And like, no, I ain't diving in the beach. But I walked in the water, and I'm like, listen, what do you want to happen? Because
Mhm.
something needs to give. And I literally was looking up at the clouds, and I saw the word God in the clouds.
Mm.
Now, I'm not the most religious person, but
Right.
I saw it and I was like, mm. And then there's this song that I love by CC Winans, Alabaster Box. And
Okay.
it goes, you don't know the cross that I bear. You don't know the oil that is poured from my alabaster box. And all of a sudden, I just started weeping.
Mm.
And I dunked my head underneath the water. I came back up. I sat on the edge of my towel. And I just grieved for this loss because I was transforming.
Mm.
And most people, we think about grieving, we think about love of a
It's,
lost of a loved one. I was
yes.
grieving this person, this new woman that was emerging.
Yes.
So when I returned home, I I started therapy,
Mm.
which was one of the best investments I could have made in myself. I started meditating because I needed to
Mhm.
quiet down the excess noise.
Oh, yes.
And I just started leaning into what I was feeling. It was a challenge.
Mhm.
I tell everybody, I was like, listen, I don't like the word hard. It wasn't hard. It was a
Right. We don't.
challenge. But I was leaning. I don't like the word hard because hard is gonna make
Right.
me go, no,
No,
no, I
nobody
ain't
wants to
doing
hear.
that.
Nobody wants to hear hard, but challenge
No,
and maybe saying it is some work. It is work,
challenge. Yeah.
and there's work to be
Challenge
done.
allowed me to lean into it,
Mm-hmm.
and there's work to be done.
Mm-hmm.
And what's so interesting is, for in our age demographic, we ain't really trying to go to therapy back then.
No.
And we're more leaned into we're gonna figure it out, we're gonna pray about it,
Yeah.
God's gonna give me the
Exactly.
answer, and all these other
Exactly.
things that we do.
Yes.
And I honestly, and my besties wasn't gonna fix it. Point
And
blank,
it's
my
but and
besties
that's
weren't
the
gonna fix it.
thing.
I love them.
But Tina, that's the thing is that it is not our best friend's job to do that. Not to heal. You see
No,
what I'm
it
saying?
isn't.
Like that is not, they may be there
Yeah.
for support, but when you need healing, we need to look at, and I want to go back to one of the things when you said you were on the beach and you said
Mm-hmm.
you were grieving the woman that you were, because you were emerging into your new self and you were grieving the old.
Yes.
I think a lot of time in that
Mm-hmm.
process, when we maybe drop down and cry for no reason. We feel like no reason, things like that, that we are like, what is wrong with me? And there is nothing wrong. There is nothing wrong. That's the beginning of the healing. There is nothing wrong with you. There is something that needs to be healed. Or maybe there's, like you said, you're going through the grieving process, but we see it in a negative fashion. And I was glad to hear in your journey, you didn't see it that way. You saw it as the beginning that it was.
That beginning that it was. And, you know, therapy really helped me understand that a little bit deeper. I just had the pleasure of finding the right therapist after firing four. And I always tell people, look, keep going until you find the right one who gets
exactly.
Because in addition to the depression, I was also going through a spiritual awakening at the same time. And so I'm trying to embrace both of those and understand what it all means, because I did not know a lot of what it meant. Again, I've never experienced depression. I don't know what this whole awakening thing is, or looks like. And I mean, I just didn't know. And so I was glad that I had connected with a therapist who understood it all and who was able to allow me to navigate it. And I always like to share this one word that he gave me as we worked together. And as I'm like so emotionally drained, he said, I don't want you to do anything except FLOW. All I want you to do is flow.
Really?
Now, my mind is, I love water. So I'm like, he's like, I just want you to flow. However you're feeling, flow with it. Don't fight it. Don't lean into it. Don't fight it. He says, just flow. And that's what I allowed myself to do as I was working on my healing, flowing through understanding, flowing through the shifts that I was experiencing. I was flowing through everything, flowing through the anger, flowing through the happiness, flowing through the tears.
All the emotions, all of them.
Every emotion that was on the list, I was flowing through all of it.
Right.
And, you know, the journey was one that it happened at, I like to say, just the right time. And I know that my journey was not just meant for me. And going through the awakening was one of the areas that allowed me to better understand it, that the challenges that I faced, the tornadoes or the storms that I had come through and out of, they served a purpose. Yes or no, I wouldn't have wanted to go through them, but yes, it was for me. I mean, I'm like, this is some BS. I don't want all of this, but it wasn't for me, because every time I would go through a storm, I have this manifestation number, which is 2. Within 2 days or 2 weeks, I happen to encounter someone who is going through the same experience in that moment.
Yes.
And so I'm like, yeah, thanks, universe. You know, thanks for the heads up. I appreciate it. But I'm so glad, because it also, one would not know, my life was corporate America. My life was being an executive assistant. And as I was going through this shift, it led me to coaching.
Right.
And this was not in the plan.
That was not in the plan. Yes.
I love when I hear people say, when people are always saying, I'm trying to find my purpose. And I'm like, my purpose is to be an executive assistant. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. And universe was like, this is what you're supposed to be doing right now. We're going to be shifting you up a little bit. It's going to be a little uncomfortable, but you're about to go through this shift.
Exactly.
And you don't even realize that you were being prepared for it all along. Yes. All the years you were in corporate, you were being prepared for this right now.
Exactly.
And so in the process of the healing was when I had did the meditation and discovered Deepak Chopra.
Okay.
And Deepak Chopra was doing a meditation, and he asked the question, who am I? And I'm sitting there like, well, I'm Devin's mommy. I'm Shirley's daughter.
Right.
I'm so-and-so. I was
that was not the answer.
Who I was on the inside.
So you were talking about your purpose and how at that time you thought your purpose was to be an executive assistant. And you had no idea that this whole nother, it's like a whole nother side of you was going to open, and that's what you were going to give to the world, right? Because you thought, this is what I'm giving what I am right now.
Yep.
But you didn't know you didn't know what you had to give.
Yes. I didn't know what else was on the horizon. I had no clue what was on the horizon.
I was going to say, so many times we're told to focus on our passion, and we've even heard, like, don't worry about your passion or whatever, just keep living. And there is something to that, meaning I feel like our passion is revealed to us or brought to us. We can almost decide it as we evolve as a person. We can decide, oh, I have all these gifts. I have all these things that I can give. I'm going to choose this one, and I'm passionate about it. And I've even heard that the passion that we seek should be passion for our life and what we give to others in that. So not this one thing, it could be 5 things over your lifetime. Stop trying to hone in and trying to have, you know what I mean? Have this is it for the rest of my life. No, you don't know where you're going to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now, those types of things.
No,
so
not at all. Mm-hmm. And like you said, I tell people all the time, they were like, how did you know you were supposed to be doing this? I was like, I didn't. I was fine in my corporate job.
Exactly.
I was like, my purpose, I didn't find my purpose. My purpose was revealed to me. And unfortunately, it was revealed through clinical depression.
Right. Right.
Because we have to, the most interesting thing that I want to share about that is depression typically gets you quiet. You start retreating and you start spending a lot of time alone. And that is where you gain clarity, because you're quiet and you're not hearing all of that excess noise around you and inside of you. So you start, you are put on pause to get quiet so you can hear. I can remember one time writing something about shut up and listen. Because sometimes we don't allow ourselves to get quiet enough to listen, to hear the messages that are being given to us. We don't get quiet enough to get the message, but we keep going on a journey searching for it.
Right.
I got quiet and I got the message loud and clear.
Yes. No, creating that space is, that's, if you don't, like you said, if you can't ever be quiet or silent, you can't receive anything.
No.
You just can't. Yeah. After Anguilla and after you came back and you said, I am owing it to myself.
Who am I?
Yeah. Who am I? After you ask that question that a lot of times we do not ask, we don't have the time. We don't have the mental capacity. We don't have that spiritual space to ask that very big question of who am I? And I say you and I are in a similar generation. And I feel like now, after I turned 50, I ask more of not necessarily just who am I, but I've gone on to who was I and who do I want to be? So that I'm addressing each phase of myself and my development. Because I feel like now I'm really focused on, like, we get to the point where we focus on ourselves, which is typically overdue, way overdue.
Way overdue.
Way overdue. But, we finally get to that point. And then in that, I can look back and be like, now I see why I was operating the way I was back in whatever year. Now I can see why my mindset was this, that, and the other. Now I see why I was maybe doing some things that were harmful to myself and therefore my relationships with other people. Right? I can reflect on that because now I have that. Now that I've asked the question of, like, who am I? Right? And then beyond that, it's like, well, who do I want to be? That's what I've been in the past. But what can I be moving forward? Now that I know, I'm working on who am I? Well, what do I want that person to be? What do I want? When time is up, I know that there's something that I want on my tombstone, and it's not worked here, did these things. It's not.
Right. I agree. I heartily agree. I feel
Yeah,
you.
it's none of that. It's being able to have impact on other people's lives, just like you do with your retreat. So would you like to share how that finding that passion has led you to a direction that, like you said, no one, we didn't see this coming. We didn't see it coming.
We didn't see it coming. What's so interesting was because I knew what it took for me to heal
Mm-hmm.
and quiet, turning the volume down. I wanted other women to experience it.
Mm-hmm.
And excuse me, I wanted other women to experience it. And I knew that I had to incorporate retreats in my offerings
Right.
to other people because and not just retreats, but international retreats. That
Mm-hmm.
was the key component. I got a lot of pushback initially about it because they were like, "Well, why can't you just do something in the United States?" And I says, "Because you won't detach yourself from
Mm.
everything that's going on at home when you're
Right.
in the States.
Wow. Yes.
When you leave the country, it's almost like a layer is being peeled off of you in order for you to focus on yourself."
Yes.
And I know it works. I know how much we like to stay connected. However, for this particular journey, you have to reconnect with the woman in the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
And you're being guided to reconnect with her because it's preparation for a shift that's going to take place when you return home. I've been doing retreats for about 12 years, and we do healing work there. We have candid discussions there. We have fun as well. However, there has not been a time where we've returned back to the States and someone has not called me and said, "This has happened since I've been home."
Right.
And I'm so glad that you nudged me to just focus on myself because I would not have been mentally, or physically, or spiritually prepared to deal with it and to
Exactly.
navigate.
Exactly.
And I even had one of my clients who is a career retreat attendee. Um, Her father had transitioned,
Mm.
and her husband said to me, "If it had not been for you, I don't think she would have handled this loss as well as she has been."
Right. Yes.
And, her own journey, her own work of coming out of the rabbit hole was
Mm-hmm.
what she needed. And, he was like, "And I appreciate you so much." And hearing constructive feedback like that is what makes me continue to host the retreats. Like I said, there's only 1 year that I didn't do it.
Right.
And that was that 1 year that the pandemic got a hold of us. But other than
Mm-hmm.
that, I have been doing the retreats for 12 years, and we've gone from Jamaica to Anguilla, to Mexico to Bali and to Morocco, where I am
And
now.
right, and to Morocco, where you are now. Well, and that's what I'm glad that you are showing, I guess, the depth of how long you've been doing this work with other women. And but I also want to hear like your personal story of after you started healing and then you were like, maybe just being an EA in this office is not enough.
Hmm.
It's not conducive to me and the life that I want. I know this is, you can paraphrase this. I know this is there's a lot of different things that happen along the way because we both know that we met when we were on a beach.
Yeah, yeah.
So how did you go from the office to the beach to Morocco? Why don't we do that?
From,
Why don't we do
from the
that? Talk about
office
that.
to the beach to Morocco. Let's see. Wait a minute here. How did I'm trying to figure out what did I do first.
You're like, how did I get here? Because this is the new normal for me. So
Listen, when I, you know, what the interesting thing about going back to the depression, the interesting thing about the depression is once you've experienced it once, you recognize the signs if it shows up again.
Okay. Yes.
And so as I had worked through everything else, and I was still in my corporate job, I started to realize that I was no longer fulfilled.
Mm-hmm.
And, there are a lot of people who experience, you go to work, you sit in the parking lot and you contemplate if you're going to go in or not. Well, that happened one time too many. That happened one time too many. And I was just like, I can't do this anymore.
Right.
And so I had done a speaking engagement in Charlotte, North Carolina. And while I was there, I was just processing, what am I going to do when I get back?
Mm-hmm.
And I returned home and I had gotten some new Oracle cards. So I cleared the deck and I'm shuffling the cards. The card that came up said leaving.
Oh, no.
I said, well, I don't know what kind of sightier sign I need, but there's the sign. And literally the next day, I called my boss and said, I think I need to resign. And she says, you think? And I go, no, I know I need to resign.
I know. Yes.
And she was like, okay. And what was so interesting is she said, I felt it was coming.
Mm.
She says, I could tell your
Okay.
energy was different.
Right.
You were still doing the work, but you weren't 100% present.
Mm.
And I was like, okay. And so a couple of days later, I returned to the office and I handed my resignation letter. Now, what was so interesting on the card, it says, even if you're leaving, it doesn't mean you have to leave right now. You can prepare to leave.
Okay.
And so I handed in my resignation letter in May. I didn't walk out the door till December. Now, most companies would not let you do that.
Right. I was like, wait a minute. Wait, May to December.
2 weeks notice. See you later. I didn't leave until December.
Okay.
And what was important for me, because me and my executive, we had just a great relationship.
Right.
And for me, it was important that I left her in good hands. I was
Okay.
like, I needed to protect her. And that's just the nature of who I am. I needed to make sure that she was okay. I needed to make sure she had everything that she needed. And that goes back to me taking care of everybody else, but forgetting to take care of myself.
Well, that's what I was going to say at that point. I mean, you were being more than generous. I mean,
Yeah.
generous is like, I don't know what the word is beyond that, but for you to give that much time on a handoff, or when you're like, I know it's time to go, because it sounds like you had accepted that it was time to go.
I had accepted it. Yes.
You had accepted that chapter was ending, but at the same time, for you to delay the exit that long, that's like, I don't know how I feel about that, Tina. I know it's in the past, but.
Okay. So listen, I was leaping without a safety net.
Okay.
And I'm like, whoo, I don't know what's down there to catch me. But I need to plan, because I just want them to be like, yeah, I'm resigning. No, I needed to have a safety net in there, because wasn't down there to catch me, Jenée.
Okay, then I understand. Okay.
And what was so crazy was I done decided I'm gonna quit my job and I'm going to move. I'm going to move and relocate. Now, who does that without a safety net? And literally, that's what I did. I quit my job on December. I walked out the door on December 22nd. I relocated to Atlanta on January 6th. So literally, I had time to pack up my house and move to Georgia.
Right.
Yeah, I wasn't prepared for all of it.
Wasn't prepared. But here's the thing. A lot of times we don't prepare for when it's time to go, which is a whole nother discussion, right? Because like you said, if we're dealing with depression or we are set in things that we need to heal from, the last thing we're thinking about is preparing to leave.
Yeah, I wasn't prepared.
No.
And so, after leaving and after relocating, here's the most interesting part of this story. So I was in Georgia for in March. So I was in Georgia, January, February, March. March, I get a phone call from my former boss, and she goes, "So I'm getting ready to retire, and the rumor around the CEO streets is I need to have an assistant. Do you want to be my virtual assistant?" And I'm like, "Okay." Not doing anything right now. Okay, this works as long as I can stay right here. But here's the great part about that was being allowed to be clear about what whoops, there we go. Being clear about the role that I would play now and the tasks that I was willing to do in this role as a virtual assistant.
Okay. So yeah, so at least two things were different. Two things were different. You were no longer in the office, right? So the setting of your work was different because you'd be virtual, right? And then you had some determination over what the relationship was going to look like. You could determine the relationship better than when you were working in corporate.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So
yeah, I was able to determine that. And so that worked well. And, I did that for her for a year. And because, again, like I said, we had this connection. And 11 years with my office wife.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. But what's great is it still allowed me to continue supporting women and doing this healing work and doing my coaching because I was able to balance the both of them. So fast forwarding to me being here in Morocco. And do you want to go there, or do you want something else?
I do want to hear. I want to hear about Morocco. I was just thinking about when you left the office and you retaining the executive you were working for, and how it's sometimes you can do. You ended up doing something that I think wasn't planned, which is stair stepping into your new life, right? You didn't just cut everything and everything was like, I mean, yes, you did move, right? But you kept the same career. It just looked different. You know what I mean? And so it facilitated you walking into, so you could transition. You can transition.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's okay. I think sometimes we're like, we need to drop everything and everything must be new. And that's not necessarily, you don't necessarily have to do that, is what I'm hearing from you.
Everybody's walk is different. It's going to be unique to them. And that's the thing is there is no standard. There's no specific way that it has to be done. And we need to better understand that there is not a requirement for you to do it like Susie did it.
Exactly.
And there's no requirement to do it like I did it. Whenever I tell this story, I tell people, I'm like, I linked without a safety net. I don't advise it. I don't advise it.
Right.
And at the same time, it's like, but this is how it worked for me. And even with me still wanting to have this experience, my first time to be out of the country for an extended period of time was, I can't remember if it was Bali or Anguilla.
Okay.
But one of the two, I had gone there and I had stayed like a month there.
Right.
And both. And for the month that I was in Anguilla, I was working on a project with someone there. And then for the month that I had stayed in Bali, I extended my stay after my healing retreat, just so I can explore if this is a place where I want to return and probably extend my stay. So I was building up to this moment.
Right.
Trying to see what life is going to look like outside of the country when you're quote unquote living there versus being a tourist there.
Exactly.
And just like when you and I met and I stayed in Mexico for a month to experience what it was going to look like. And what's always important, especially for people who are looking to live outside the country, is you have to go and experience it for yourself.
So
because
true.
it's going to look different for you based on what your needs are, based on what you like. Like, we know you love Mexico. I
I
am
love
like,
Mexico. And Tina was like, this is not for me. This is
this
not
is
for me. And
not
I was
for
like, girl, I'm
me.
here. I'm like, I'm here. I'm
Like,
integrated already.
yeah, like, thank you for the beach, but this is not for me. And I knew it was not. And I have another friend, the same exact thing. She realized that Mexico was for her as well. She likes it, but now she's on the fence about another destination. But
Right.
I knew it was not for me because, I felt like even though I knew Spanish, I struggled with the language barrier, and it felt more intense than it's ever felt. Now, of course, now I'm in Morocco where they speak Arabic and French. I don't know either one of those languages,
I'm like, what you doing?
but somehow I'm figuring it out, which is like so amazing. But
Right.
but being in Mexico gave me anxiety.
Right.
It was supposed to be peaceful, but there were moments where I started feeling anxious being there, and then I was
Mhm.
being selective of when I go out. And from when you and I met, is I was a creature of habit. I'm going to the same places, so this
Right.
way people
Right.
know me and I don't have to struggle as much.
Exactly. Exactly. Yes. But no, it is very, like you said, it is very important for you to experience it yourself. And we also have to remember you can go somewhere and be like, this is my place for right now. This is not, we keep thinking our decisions must be forever,
Mm-hmm. No,
right? No.
not at all. Because that's what I felt about Anguilla. I was like, I'm moving to Anguilla. I used to have hashtag Anguilla 50, Anguilla
Yeah.
50.
Hmm.
After staying that month in Anguilla, I realized Anguilla is not it. Like, like I could do 3 weeks, I could do a month. If I had to do 6 months in Anguilla, I don't think I would be as happy as I would when I go to visit there. Anguilla's
True.
my space of
Okay.
peace.
Right.
Anguilla's my space of peace. Is what I need. However, I don't see myself living there for,
Exactly.
like, I've been here in Morocco for 6 months. I don't see that for Anguilla.
You don't see that for Anguilla. Yeah.
No.
Right. And that's okay. So how did you end up in Morocco and deciding to take this I mean, this is something you're always trying something new.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you are. I mean,
You're doing that
in the best possible way, you are always trying something new and allowing yourself to do that.
now.
And you have a grown son. It's not like you're doing it alone.
No.
So so when you talk about, I know you do give me anxiety when you talk about leaping without a safety net. You do give me anxiety because I'm a planner, but to see you go through it, and you obviously have the resilience of you've done it enough that
Mm-hmm.
Tina, it always works out, like
Yeah.
some kind of way it works out. And to have Devin with you this time in Morocco, I mean, what would you want women to know other than the fact that allow the twists and turns? I hear that in your story,
Mm-hmm.
right? Allow that. But what else would you want them to know when they are saying, hey, I realize there's some things I need to heal, and I'm just not sure what the path forward is going to be?
So when I think about the healing component of it, I truly believe that if I not had not healed from some of the experiences that I've had in the past, I would not have been so open to saying yes to this opportunity here.
Yes.
Um, you know, how I ended up here was I had met someone, oddly enough, in Anguilla, and she and I would always talk about our love of travel. Her travel was more extensive than mine,
Mm-hmm.
and she had built her home base here, and she was building a community for Black people to
Mm-hmm.
heal. And so I believed in her mission. And when she extended the invitation for me to come here, she gave me every reason to say yes. versus saying no.
There you go.
I kept saying, oh, I got to worry about Devin. I got to, blah, blah, blah. I have to worry about this. What am I going to do with my stuff? And she gave me every reason to say yes. Bring your son with you. Put your stuff in storage. All of them, I literally got the call. We had this conversation the beginning of July.
Right.
And I started giving things away on Facebook. Anybody need a sofa? Come and get it. You need the bed? Come and get it. You need a desk? I was literally giving away the majority of my things that I wasn't emotionally attached to.
Right. Yeah.
And I was contemplating the vehicle, but I realized my car was paid for. So I'm going to put my car in storage.
Right.
And we discussed what my options were going to be here as I'm living here, even though it changed when I got here, because although I had been here from my retreat, I hadn't lived here.
Exactly.
And the dynamics were going to be different. August is 120 degrees. It's a lot. And, but she gave me every reason to say yes.
Yes. Yes.
And I literally was like, okay, so she made it easy for me to be able to do it. And I came here, and lo and behold, 2 days later, I had a heart attack. 2 days after getting here. That wasn't in the plan.
That was definitely not in the plan. And as somebody on the other in the other country, so far away from you as a friend, I mean, I do not have the words to explain to try not to go into fear of the state you were in, and for you to be out the country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, like the worry, and just like saying, oh my God, is not even enough. That's not even, I don't have the words to tell you how I felt. So I can only imagine, and you shared with me, you going through that, and Devin, and your closest of friends.
Yeah. It was a lot.
Yes.
And everyone was like, are you coming home? And I'm like, I don't got a home. What am I coming home to? I don't got a home. But honestly, and what was so funny was my friend wasn't even here. She was in Bali when I got here.
Yeah.
So she was trying to navigate everything from the telephone. And one of my work colleagues was here, and he was trying to help me. And it was a lot. Yet and still, I wasn't ready to throw in the towel and say, I'm coming back to the States. I wasn't ready.
And you're still there. And you are still there.
6 months later. And I felt like I got the best care I could have possibly received. In addition to that, I got the best support that I could have as well. Mm-hmm. And I've had so many aha moments being here, mm-hmm. that it is really opening my eyes as I try to decide what my next shift or move will be after Morocco.
Yes. And of course I want like a follow-up. I mean, I'll be there with you anyway, but whatever the next thing is, I would want you to come back and share it with women, just so I feel like it's always wonderful to just have so many different stories from mm-hmm. so many different walks of life,
yes.
From so many different women. We're all, I try to get women that we're all in our 40s, 50s, maybe even 60s, because there seems to be a underlying thread of that asking who we are, yes. and working on not only finding that, but showing that person to the world, mm-hmm. to the world wherever we go.
Definitely.
Yes. Definitely. So I want to thank Tina for joining me. she's being such a sport because it is getting very dark on her side, on her side of the
Yes,
world.
I was
We
like,
are
we need to
leaving,
turn on
yes.
more lights in here. But it's what time is it? Yeah, it's late. There's a 6 hour,
It's late.
7 hour time difference. Yeah.
Yes, so it is late. We are losing light, but I want to thank her for joining us. And if we didn't get anything at all from Tina today, I want to say she gave us the finding the opportunities to say yes. Finding the opportunities to say yes. If it's time for you to heal, if it's time for you to step away, find the opportunities to say yes. So I hope to have her back on my channel. Maybe, update in like 6 months or something like that. We'll see what's going on then. Thank you for joining us today. And Tina, thank you for joining me.
Very welcome. Thank you for having me.
And we'll connect at a later date. Ladies, enjoy your evening. Bye.